and welcome to Beyond the Screen, the Family Connection podcast, where we explore ideas, tools, and conversations that help families raise curious, connected kids without relying on screens to do it for us. I'm Dr. Samantha Hayes, educator, parent, and founder of Beyond the Screen Families, and I'm super excited about who I have sitting with me today. This is Brenda, and if you don't know her, she is the mastermind behind Little Lion History. As somebody who found this love of history myself later in life, to where I wanted to figure out how to teach it to kids, and I taught it through archaeology. I immediately have seen her stuff on Instagram and was like, whoa, what is this? And it is amazing what she's doing to really bring history alive and exciting for kids. Like, you just have to go check it out if you haven't. All of her stuff is got this story-based approach. It's sparking curiosity, and the best of thing is it's screen free. So, Brenda, why don't you share a little bit about yourself, your background, what inspired you to create Little Lion, so everybody else can know a little bit about you?
So, one of the things people assume about me is I've had this lifelong love of learning history, and that is not the case at all. So, how this ended up starting is it was my husband, my dad, and I. We were sitting on the couch and we were watching this YouTube video of this guy, and he was going around this town asking people basic history questions.
Mm.
And my dad and my husband, who are pretty knowledgeable about history, were shocked that the people didn't know the answers to these questions. And so I don't know if you've ever seen that GIF, but it's like Homer Simpson and he's slowly backing up in between two bushes to
I use
hide.
it. I use it all the time.
That was me in that moment because I had to reluctantly admit that I was one of those people that didn't know the answer to these questions.
Uh,
So my dad was like, how do you not know the answers to these questions? Did you not learn this stuff in school? And maybe I did,
mhm,
but it had never stuck with me. So in that moment, I was like, I don't want to be one of these people. I need to learn history. So I
mhm.
started teaching myself history. Fast forward, I have my 2-year-old daughter, my brand new newborn son. We're sitting on the couch, we're watching this documentary on the American Revolution. And I don't know if it was a combination of reading way too many Dr. Seuss books to my daughter and not sleeping at the time, but this story about the American Revolution, this rhyming story about the American Revolution started popping into my head. And so I started writing it down, and at the time, I was also teaching myself how to draw on Adobe Illustrator. So I started putting pictures to that story I had just written that later became my first book. And then I wrote another book. And as history goes, that's how I created Little Line History.
I love, like, I didn't realize, like, I knew you had said that it came to you later in life. Like, I didn't realize it was that much later where you were
Yes.
like,
Yep.
oh, I don't know. So maybe I need to learn. Like,
Yes. Yes. I did not want to be one of those people getting caught on the streets, not being able to answer a basic question about the country I live in.
uh-huh. I used to, Jay Leno did that a lot, and he would
Yeah.
go out and, like, hearing it, I was always like, how do people not know this? Like, I
Yes.
thought this was common knowledge, but yeah,
And to
not,
clarify, there are some things I knew. I did not know anything.
it wasn't like everything, right? Like,
Yes.
you knew,
Yes.
you just didn't want to be stumped where somebody like pulls the microphone out and you're like, oh,
uh,
I don't know that.
yes.
That's awesome. Well, and I think some of the deliriousness of being a new mom with a
Mhm.
toddler, like,
Yes.
I'm glad you had that moment to create what you created.
Yes.
But also, I feel you on that. There's like this, like,
Something good can come of that very hard time in life.
oh, and now you don't just have your books, you have a whole bunch of other stuff, right?
Yes. So I started with my books and then I realized my books are very basic. They just tell the basic story. And so I wanted to take pieces of my books and start going deeper. Like
Mhm.
my American Revolution book mentions the Boston Tea Party, but my next book is going to go deeper into what the Boston Tea Party actually is. So wanted to keep building on that. And I also have activities that add more of like a hands-on element to the learning where you're cutting, gluing, playing versus just reading a story.
And you have your two kids. Is your daughter like a history buff now? A little young 7-year-old history buff?
Oh, we were playing this. Have you played Telestrations before? It's
No.
like Pictionary, or no, yes, it's like the game Telephone, but also the game Pictionary. So somebody writes down a word, then passes it to someone else, and then they have to draw a picture, and then the next person guesses what that picture is, and then the next person draws that picture, and it goes back and forth. So we were playing that game with my daughter, and it was, I believe the person was Abraham Lincoln. And so my husband will whisper to her what the word is because she can't read yet. And
Right.
then she'll draw the picture. And I can't remember. I said something along the lines of, oh, what did I say? I was like, it's the person with the top hat or something like that. I tried to like give her a clue and she's like, oh, that guy on the penny and stuff like that. So she's just like, why didn't you just say that, mom? So she thinks she's smarter than me now sometimes.
Duh, the guy on the penny.
Right? Yeah.
That's so awesome. That is so
Mhm.
awesome. Um, okay, so on your site, you say kids just need an invitation when it comes to learning. And I absolutely love that idea. Can you talk more about what that means and how you see it coming alive with history?
So I feel like while kids can learn a lot from just living everyday life, as parents and educators, it's important to invite them into learning certain things. For example, typically our kids don't wake up one day and they're like, I want to learn the ABCs. We invite them into that by singing
Mm,
songs with them, reading books to them, because we know that that's a basic skill that they're going to need
hmm
eventually to read. So I try
hmm
to create history resources where parents can invite their kids into learning history. And
hmm
how I've seen that come alive in my own kids is I had brought them to a local museum one time and they were touching all the things the sign said not to touch. They were climbing on all the things the sign said not to climb on. And they were ready to go the second we walked in the door. They didn't want to be there. And at the time, I didn't realize that this was going to be the result, but I had started creating little history activities with my daughter, and we'd been doing those. Probably about 8 months had passed. We had gone back to that same museum because our library gives free passes to it. And the experience was completely different. My daughter
mm
was like, hey, mom, look at that, we read about that in a book. Hey mom, we've made something like that at home. And she was way more connected to what she was seeing in there, and if she didn't know about it, she's all, well, what does that do, what does this do, what's that about? So her having prior
hmm
experience with history changed
hmm
our experience at the museum.
In a very hands-on way,
Yes,
like
yes,
so hands-on. What a richer experience she's getting from it because
right,
you did a little bit of work that was more of an invitation, like let's play, let's have
right,
fun with this, like let's connect with this. I feel like that is a problem with how history is taught currently.
yes,
Not there's not an invitation, right? It's
yeah,
like sit, get this book, read
right,
it. At least
hmm,
that's how I grew up and I was a teacher and that's how it was still being taught when
yes,
I was a teacher back in my day. Um there isn't that invitation like come and like let's play and let's do this.
hmm,
And I feel like that's why so many people get turned off.
yes, absolutely. It's made more to be like, oh, here's this timeline. Did you
Yes.
memorize where these dates go and what
Yes.
person or event belongs to that number, instead of let's experience this?
Yes. Yes. And if we open that invitation and make it an experience,
Hmm.
um your brain actually retains it better. So
Yes.
when Jay Leno, who's no longer doing this, but when the next person comes to ask you a question about history, you're probably going to
Yeah.
remember it
Yes.
much better than
Or
you
my
did
daughter
in the
will be
past.
correcting me.
Yes, yes. Like, yeah, yes. When I taught archaeology, I always took the kids and we would do an excavation to learn about cultures and the way cultures make, and assumptions and all of that. And so I would go plant real artifacts um, in a excavation site, and the kids would like map it and stuff like that. And really see, and then they would have to look at the map and like figure out what was happening. And such a like a lot of kids, you could see that little like spark in them
Yes, yes.
that they never had before. They'd come in and they'd be like, I
What
don't
version
want to
do we
do
have to do
this.
now? Yes. Yeah.
And I think that my next question deals with the abstractness of history. And I think what
Yeah.
we're talking about, like, kind of alludes to all of that. Like, how do you make it fun and engaging and appropriate because you have a lot of stuff for 2 to 7 year olds. Like,
Yeah.
and that's where, and I know you've posted about this, that's where history is not taught.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're skipping that age and they're like going older. And we're not skipping that age when we're teaching other subjects. So why are we
Nope.
skipping that age when we're teaching history? Is my
Yes.
question. So
Hmm.
I always talk about onions when I talk about history because I feel like when you take a subject like the American Revolution and you try to take one giant bite of it at once, it's going to be too strong, way too much, and it's probably going to make you cry and you're never going to want to do it again.
Hmm.
So when it comes to big history like that for kids, I try to lean into the storytelling side of it, the play side of it. I use in my books animals because kids love animals at that
Hmm.
age. And often they have a favorite stuffed animal so they can connect with the characters that way. And I have rhyming in my books. Kids are
Hmm.
starting to recognize rhymes. And that's another one of those basic skills that kids are going to use to start reading someday. And then throughout my book, I have a hidden item that kids can look for and point out on the pages as their parent is reading them the story. Because, like you were saying, I feel like the more senses that you use when you're learning, the more the learning is going to stick. So now they're
Hmm.
using their eyes, their fingers to point at it, and their ears to listen to the story. So instead of dumping that giant textbook in front of them, I try to create that like first layer of the onion that's bite sized instead of this giant chunk at
Hmm.
once.
Hmm. That makes so much sense. I think I have a lot of curriculum writing in my background, and when you're writing curriculum, clearly a hard word for me today. You always want it to spiral, right? So you
Right,
start with something small and then you spiral and add more pieces to it because that's actually how you
right.
retain something. And
Yes,
so what you're talking about is okay, kids in that 2 to 7 age group, they learn best through play. They learn best
right,
through storytelling. They learn best through all of those things. Let's start in a way that's manageable and
right,
fun, and then we can continue building on it as they get older. Like, and the kids, any of the kids who are using your resources, if they ever get a history book sat in front of them, I'm like, please no. They're probably going to have just such a richer understanding because they've had this connection from when they were little. Like,
right. Yes,
oh, I know that. And I know it in a rich way,
right.
not just reading about it so that I know that this happened.
It's like back to the whole museum example where
Yes.
my daughter went in cold and wanted nothing to do with it. When she had an experience with it, then she really had a better connection to it. It's like when you just get thrown a textbook when you're older and you have no prior connection to it, you want nothing to do with it, sort of thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Such a powerful way to teach about something that I feel like is complex. And as a fellow, now that you're in this group, as a fellow history lover, like I I strongly believe if you do not understand your past, you will repeat. Like
A
you
thousand
just
percent.
will.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is imperative for us
Yes.
to understand our past so that we do not keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again, right? Like,
Couldn't agree more. And I feel like you watch the world right now and you're like, oh, that reminds me of something else I read about in the past. So,
yes, yes.
yep,
But we have, as you've like illustrated, like with the example of people not being able to remember their history, and so many people, I really think, maybe I'm biased, but I feel like if people had a hands-on approach to history, if it was something relatable, right? Like really being able to touch things, really being able to connect through stories, really being able to like make those connections happen. I feel like we wouldn't have that camp of like, I love history, I don't love history, right?
yeah,
It would be so much more of this like melded, like, oh, history, we need this, right? Like we need this, like, oh, this happened, this happened. Yeah, we all are history people.
yeah.
Um, I feel the same way about math personally too, because I'm also a math geek. And often we don't make math hands-on and understandable and relatable. We're
Right.
just like,
Mhm.
here, here are your
Yeah.
facts. Anyway. Um, Okay, so now I'm going to dive to the screen-free portion of it because I find that many families turn to videos or apps to teach lots of things, and history is in that same vein. If it gets taught at all when kiddos are younger, it's like here's an app or here's, people are wanting to market those aspects. What do you see as the benefits to keeping it hands-on and screen-free or screen minimal? Because I don't know, sometimes like a documentary or something like that, a kid documentary might be super powerful, but what are the benefits to doing it without all of the other stuff instead?
So there's definitely a benefit to watching a documentary on TV, but the difference between that and the hands-on learning, it goes back to more of that like full body learning. So when you're cutting, gluing, playing, using more of your body to learn, that's when it's going to stick. And
Mm-hmm.
also, you gain confidence that you don't gain from just watching something on a screen. When you do something or your kid does something, they're like, "Look, mom, I created this." Or look at this
Mm-hmm.
problem I just solved, or the light bulb goes off, and they're so proud of themselves for doing that. And I feel like you don't get that same
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
feeling when you just watch something on a screen. And also,
Mm-hmm.
it builds connection. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're learning with your kid something and your kid's learning with you, you're building that bonding moment of learning together. And that also doesn't come from just sitting there watching a screen, I feel.
Yay! Yes. Be your biggest cheerleader right now.
Thank you.
So beyond, I mean, I I absolutely love what you're doing, and your push to get our youngest learners in particular passionate about understanding their past in a way that is manageable and so they're not taking a giant bite of an onion. I'm not an onion eater.
You're like, I don't even want that bite-sized piece of the onion.
What do you hope families gain from using Little Lion History, any of your products that you're producing? Um, what do you hope they gain?
I hope that parents are excited to learn about history. I hope they realize that it's not about just memorizing dates and
Mm,
names, that it is a story, that they're a part of the story, their kids are a part of the story, and that real people were a part of the story.
mm,
And I just hope that they feel equipped to start teaching their kids. The tools that I create are to help parents start playing their way through history with kids. And for me, a real win wouldn't be a kid just being able to regurgitate a bunch of information, A real win for me would be a kid learning something with their parent and they were just so excited about what they learned, they want to do that again, or they're
Mm,
excited for what the next thing's going to be.
mm. That's powerful. I mean, like you're talking about that connection piece, that curiosity piece, that whole spark of like really and what I heard woven into what you just said is that parents are also there, right? Like
Yes.
so parents are also maybe it's going to spark a little history love in them
Right.
when
Yes.
they're right alongside their kiddos. Like all of a
Yes.
sudden they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that. That's super cool."
Right. Yes. That too.
And then they can join the cool history club.
Are we starting a cool history club?
I think we need to, and we
Okay.
can ask people to join it.
Yes. Next, we are now branching into a cool history club podcast.
Yes. Totally for that. I'm totally for that one. Okay, so if you're gonna give parents something like something bite-sized right now, right? A couple of ways, maybe one or two, parents can start weaving history into everyday life beyond going and looking at everything you offer and bringing that in, um, and without making it feel like school. What would your suggestion be?
My suggestion would just be to go to your library. They have tons of kids' books about history. Maybe pick out some of those more simple books and just start reading those, or pre read it and just start adding pieces of those or what you're reading into play. And if you are stuck on how to do that, then come to me.
Or just come to you first and then go to the library to get supports, right?
Okay, yes, but you were saying without my resources. So I
Okay,
was trying
okay.
to answer it that way.
You know, one thing that I think is going to stick with me and that you like really highlighted for me was with your museum example. And it's just for me, it's like, oh, the prep work. And I know this, right? Like I know this as a teacher, but then I get into mom land and some of the things I know, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Um, but the prep work, so because I've had similar museum experiences, and so even for like history, because I love history museums and I love those kinds of things, but you take little kids and all of a sudden you don't love it anymore. You're like,
Right. Yep.
let's get out of here. Um, but you're just your little story. I'm like, I need to do better prep work before we go on that adventure
Yeah.
so that when we all go in, we're all excited about what we're seeing and what we're being able to learn and all of that. With just a little bit of prep work that makes it more fun up front so they have the connections they need to make the museum not so boring.
Right.
So, if you want to hear more about Brenda, you should follow her on Instagram at Little Lion History, all one word, smashed together, Little Lion History. Follow her. She shows ideas and tips and all kinds of stuff on how you can bring history alive and make it fun for especially our littlest learners. You should also check her out. All of her printables, books, and all the other stuff is at her website, littlelionhistory.com. Is there anything else, Brenda, that you want to share with anyone?
Just that it's important. The world feels scary right now, but we have a bright future and we need to just invest in our future. It's very important to invest in our kids' education right now. And I just want to thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This was so fun and I was so excited to be here.
Yay, thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure to get to talk to you a little bit about history and bringing it alive, making it screen free and full of wonder. So thanks for listening to Beyond the Screen, the Family Connection podcast. Together, let's continue to create lives full of curiosity, creativity, and connection by fostering moments that stick.